On today's episode of the Edge Zone podcast, we're bringing on a guest who's built a brand rooted in education, discipline, and long-term betting success. Dan's the creator of Gamble to Freedom, a platform that's helped countless bettors move away from BS hype-driven picks and into a data-driven approach focused on plus EV strategies. As a two-time Underdog Streak winner, he's turned $10 into $10,000 twice, proving his system works. And his mission? To help people escape financial stress through smart, disciplined betting. Dan's been running a thriving platform built around math, sharp market data, and community. And here's the exciting part. Dan is officially merging his G2F community with Edge Zone. He signed on as a featured contributor, bringing his tools, education, and community into our ecosystem. This collaboration means even more insights, more value, and more ways to beat the books together. So let's dive in. Here's our conversation with Dan, the man behind Gamble to Freedom!
So the object here is to win.
No dough, no show.
Sounds to me like you got a couple of bookies.
Show me the money.
All right, guys, welcome in. We're here with the Arb Father Nick. We're here with Dan, Gamble to Freedom. What's going on, boys?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, dude. We're super excited to, interview you and stuff like that. We're obviously really familiar with what you do and what you've done in like the space. And, all of us have had many conversations, and I think this is going to be an awesome platform to give you to just, tell the people what you do and what you're going to bring to the Edge Zone.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously, we've talked about it, but that was my ultimate goal. We've mentioned that we've felt like there's been a huge gap in the industry in sports betting with EV betting and kind of the education part of it. So I'm really excited. I got a lot of stuff cooking on my end as well. But as soon as you guys started this, I wanted to jump on board before it gets too late for me to get involved with you guys. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know it will because, we've seen your track record, brother. It's not like we haven't been in contact and followed you for some time. So we know the value you bring, and it's something for the viewers to behold for sure. Let's just start with the big news. We kind of already mentioned it, but give us a little bit of background on your community that you built in Gamble to Freedom, and then talk about the move and why you decided to join forces with us over here at Edge Zone.
Yeah, so kind of come from the background of probably a majority of people you've probably talked to of being a losing sports bettor. Most people don't go into this industry being an intelligent EV bettor or even know what that means, because most people, I say EV betting, it's some dumb acronym that they don't understand. So, living in Kansas, big fan of sports, grew up sports. Had no real edge to want to gamble. Never really had that feeling to want to do that. But when it became legal in 2019, I did a little bit, dabbled in like prize picks, I think was the thing, but that was just for fun with like $1 per parlay. And then come COVID, when things were getting a little tense in this country, wanted to make a little extra few bucks. And, I think at the time I was traveling, came back, and I worked multiple side jobs, full-time job. And, and the more I was just online on social media, seeing a ton of sports, and then I started seeing more sports betting, cappers and people talking about big wins. And then what most people do is just go down the rabbit hole of following countless people on there and just losing a ton of money and, losing, it started out $5, $10 here, $20 there, $20 on a, plus $10,000 parlay, and just thinking, I would get rich quick and I can, basically follow the American dream of, having control of my life and doing something different that I actually love doing. And then doing EV betting come summer of 2024. So it took a while. It took me almost losing my job and, fighting for multiple side jobs as well. I was pretty comfortable with a full-time job at the time. And so I was at the risk of losing that full-time job, and I knew I needed to take, if I was going to keep doing sports betting, think that could be a turn to, be financially free, that I need to change something dramatic in my life. And I remember that Alex video of talking about something on EV betting and on YouTube, and decided to change, and I switched it like that July of 2024. And kind of the rest is history from there. And I knew, as someone who's very passionate about, one, there's just so many scam artists out there. I was just getting frustrated every month after month of just following all these people. And now I know that a lot of these people are scammers, and we all know that 95% of people are losing sports bettors. I just don't like it so much. I feel bad for people that went through the same thing I did, just losing thousands of dollars. And so to answer the question, like why I started the Discord was, once I made enough money, I was learning as much as I could. I knew I wanted to start something. And at that time there was the 7 Discord, like we've discussed, but I wanted something that was a little bit more unique, a little bit more, not only with sports betting, like just, here's some plays myself, maybe here's some bots or something like that. But I wanted to, help people that I think would have helped me at the beginning, because I also went through some growth spurts. And so I wanted to, have a little bit of an edge of a financial literacy to sports betting. And so it kind of just grew from there. Just a buddy of mine just started it. And so I wanted to write ebooks and books, physical books, and, have the Discord and talk to new bettors and kind of bridge that gap between basically trying to find the people and, get them away from following a dozen cappers on Twitter, because seems a new person on Twitter, found the lotto ticket, and they have the winning tickets on their Discord or on their Dub Club or something like that. So through the struggles of starting one, there's a lot of overhead through that. And I realized, to do more for my community, for the people I wanted to retain and help them grow as well, I needed more support, more collaboration with people. And that's kind of when I saw you guys come in about, you guys have gone through this longer than I have, and you have a much bigger reach. And this is all I kind of wanted. I just wanted a community where we can basically find more people to get them away from these, big heads that's on social media, that's kind of in bed with these giant sports books. And so if we can find any way to get more people on our side, more the merrier. So I'd much rather prefer just to collaborate and join forces with the best and brightest of EV bettors out there, and do the best I can to not have people go through the struggles I did when I first learned about sports betting.
Yeah, I love that, and can definitely resonate to that. I'm sure between the three of us, we've probably helped, hundreds or probably thousands of people at this point, right?
Thousands, easily. Yeah.
Literally nothing more rewarding, right? And not just to say that, right? Like, of course, we do stand something to gain from it, right? Like your personal brand and stuff like that too, or in a Discord case, right? It is behind a paywall, so monetary value, but like literally, one of the main reasons that Shane and I kind of wanted to branch off and to do this was like to actually spend time every day doing what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's sports betting, talking about sports betting with people and helping others win, right? Like it's literally a win-win situation for everybody involved. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. And I love what you said too. And I think it's like a 3-part thing, right? Like people get introduced to sports betting and just automatically start punting. That's just natural. We all went through that phase. You're following the wrong people. And then you kind of come across the tools like an odds jam or a Discord that has like bots or something like that as well, right? But like you can give anybody tools, but it doesn't mean they're going to know how to use them, right? And like some people do, some people don't, but usually don't use them to like, the max potential. And I think that's, again, what we're selling too, right? We have tools in there. We have people that are going to be sending out picks and plays as well. But like that education piece, I think is, there's a place in the market for it. And I think that's what we're ultimately going to deliver, right? Through maybe live streams or Q&As or these podcasts or, one-on-ones too. And, that's going to be a part of the Discord. Shane and I are probably going to take the brunt of that at first, but, having people like you involved too, that like, we can pass the reins to. And I think that's really going to be super beneficial for everybody involved. And, Shane can chime in at any point too, but I also would love to hear like, a little bit more about your journey, right? Like you most likely got started with arbitrage, right? Then moved on to EV, then moved on to DFS, and maybe just kind of walk us through those stages of like what you started with, and kind of ultimately what you do most of now.
Sure. Yeah, no, I started off, like I said, I think I told myself I was going to commit to this EV betting thing from Alex and OddsJam, late June 2024. So I think I signed up like last week of June. I think I did EV betting. I literally just, because I watched so many videos, I was still confused. I just thought I should just click everything that you see on when you go to an OddsJam EV page. And that's kind of what I did, honestly, with a few recommendations from Alex. But then after doing that for like, 3-4 days, I was like, I'm losing money still. I need to, let me take a step back. And, just straight off before I talk about arbitrage, like all these books I have in Kansas, like most people have, the big guys that are, multi-billion-dollar companies, FYI, they're, BetMGM, FanDuel, DraftKings, all those guys. These are books I already used when I was in the thick of it of following countless cappers. I never had like sign up bonuses to get me started in arbitrage, like most videos you see in education when you should start with arbitrage is, promo converting, all that kind of stuff. And so I switched to arbitrage, and that just made the most sense to me. It was really easy, especially easy doing pre-match, because I had all the books. I wasn't limited. I didn't lose thousands like on all of them. I think the big one was like FanDuel because I think they probably worked with a lot of cappers. This is my opinion, who are like, have like very big famous Discord. So most of the money I lost was on FanDuel. I lost some on these other big books. So the start was arbitrage. I just did probably like 60-70% pre-match just because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what limits were. I didn't think any accounts would get banned. So I did a ton of pre-matches, and then I saw, there's no one doing like courses online or live streams besides Alex, but he never did live arbitrage online usually. But then I just took a crack at it. I did very tiny units, a few bucks here and there, just making pennies, but I was just starting to get in the hang of it. I just really liked it. And because I related to that because I actually, I come from a little bit of financial literacy. Like, I come from, the boomer parents of like telling you like invest in your 401k and get that corporate job, all that, the whole shtick there. So I have a little bit of that information in literacy. So like I also knew about, kind of day trading and, working with your brokerage account and like the highs and lows and the candlestick and all that kind of fun stuff. So like all that kind of related to me in terms of like looking at arbitrage, live arbing as like kind of day trading in a sense. So, and I'm kind of good with numbers, and that was kind of my full-time job. 2022, 2023, I had a full-time job that I ended up getting laid off from. And so I just did arbitrage, and I think I made anywhere from $50 to $100 a day. I just kind of quit doing EV betting. I cut it from like 70% pre-match to like 5% pre-match, not because it wasn't there. I just wanted to save most of my units for live arbing. I found that more fun, more entertaining, like, bigger discrepancies between like the percentage of how much I could win. And so I did that for the first month and a half, still not really learning about account health and like not really following anyone, just kept doing that. Live tennis was the time last summer. So I did that. I made in the 2.5 months before I got like a strike, essentially scary email that we all get about getting limited. And so I got that like 2.5 months in. I think I made, I don't know, a little over 9,000, I believe. And so I went straight from there, and then I was like, okay, well, I can either try and do P2 accounts, which wasn't really my favor. It was, I come from the parents and the siblings of like, gambling's gambling. You're going to lose money. What you made is the fluke kind of thing. So no one was really on board of like, let me have their accounts. So instead I just went full on, like 10,000 is now my bankroll, and I'm going to EV bet and just kind of copy Alex and see what he does, watch all his streams. And I took it like that was my job. Like I still had my full-time job plus part-time jobs. And I took it like I was like a huge hustler in that regard. So I literally just did everything he did plus my own, a little bit of my own, and just kind of grew that up until January. I think I got to maybe a little over 25,000. And then I started looking to DFS. He was doing more of that. So I started doing, that's when I started Underdog Streaks, where I got most of my fame, because I really liked, doing all the kind of pre-match EV bets I could do, where I could just follow OddsJam's platinum plan of watching the line graphs, kind of like a day trader, like I was saying, just watching minutes, 5-10 minutes before game starts, just see a ton of swings and highs and lows of the game starting. So that's just where my head was at. And I started doing DFS at that time, did Underdog Streaks. And then, at the time, like I said, I thought Underdog Streaks was just a money drain, but I quickly realized that you can actually make really good money on such a small bet size. And you can take days off, because all you need is just pick one play at a time. And so that's kind of it. It kind of just jumps off from there. And then, I hit two pretty quick, one after another, within the span of about a month and a half. And then after that, they took my account away and only let me bet a certain amount of dollars. And story's the same for the other DFS books. And then, after still doing all this, by the way, like part-time, I did arbitrage betting probably 1 hour a day, because I just couldn't. I had a full-time job, plus part-time jobs and responsibilities and family stuff. So, and making $100 a day within an hour is fantastic. And then I think overall, I was probably 70-80% part-time for my 1-year anniversary this past July, and made a really good salary. So that's kind of helped me, take control of my life and think about my future. So hopefully that's enough breakdown. I can expand a little bit more on a few things, but I feel like that's kind of just the past 1 year of my journey so far with EV betting.
No, that's a lot of detail, and I think that's a story that a lot of people could follow and resonate, because the more people you talk to, the more you realize that a lot of us took the same path.
Sure.
So those Underdog Streaks are crazy. It's the $10 to $10,000, picking 10 straight winners. What was your strategy going into that, and what did you develop over the course of winning 2 of those things and basically getting banned from those sites because of it?
Yeah. So I am limited to like $75 a day, I think. But yeah, Underdog. I think I saw Alex play around with it early on, and I still thought it was kind of silly. But yeah, it was it's the strategy is you pick 2 plays, which is like a plus 300 on a Underdog, or I think PrizePicks the same payouts, basically a plus 300 parlay. So you pick the first 2. And then after that, you only have to pick 1. And basically you have to get 11 in a row correct within a 30-day span. So I saw that as well, if I don't have to do this every day, because every day there's not great value. So I was thinking, just through EV betting the past, 6-7 months of just doing this, I was like, well, what if I just take the approach like I have been doing of following the line graphs that the platinum plan on OddsJam utilizes. And I was tracking my units. I think I stopped tracking just because I was like, this is profitable. It's like day trading. So I think I went up 20, 25 units when I was just tracking OddsJam's line graph. Basically, you find a high EV percentage that just pops up maybe 10, 20 minutes before a game starts. And this was all during NBA. And as we all know with NBA, there's constant subs and constant, trades and lineup changes and stuff. So I knew that going in, I was like, I see a ton of movement constantly. So if I saw Underdog's fixed line value at minus 116, and I saw someone coming into the game. There's a massive shift of I remember the most famous one that won me a pick 9 or 10 on my first one was a Spencer Dinwiddie play where he was at a fixed. Underdog was minus 116, just staying there. And then Pinnacle had it minus 135. And then 5 minutes before the game started, he, if you look at any line graphs on OddsJam or just in general, you look at graphs, you see it spiking all the way down, spiked all the way down to minus 210. And I don't need any other evidence other than you're just getting a better price. And there's something happening where there's probably really sharp, profitable, smart bettors that are hammering that to him to go over under. I don't know what it was, but that was kind of the approach I took. And that wasn't every day, like I said. So that's why I took 2-3 days off. I couldn't find anything. Some days it was like 8-9 days. But my approach for streaks was I don't care what the first two are. If they're obviously they're EV, I want EV. And then I'll take a little bit risk approach of like using OddsJam's EV or OddsJam's Fantasy Optimizer, or there's other guys, Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. I'll just take a little risk here and trying to get at least maybe a 2-3% EV percentage and get that through the first 5 picks, first 4 or 5 picks maybe. And if I get lucky enough to make it that far, that's when I take my time. And like I said, like I go the approach of like, I wait till the very last 5-10 minutes, just like any other like day trader who's up at 7 a.m. As soon as that bell strikes and they see some massive movement, some sort of partnership, that happens. That's the same kind of thinking I have. And, they don't hit all the time, but, if you're doing that just as a straight play, you're going to be profitable doing that, just from my own background and how much money I made doing that. So it took me, I think, 27 days for my second one to hit. It literally like the first one hit after like 15, 16 tries. And then the second one was like 2-3 tries misses. And then once I got to pick 5, it was a home run after that, and then ever since then they kicked me off essentially from streaks. But now we'll see how my girlfriend does on her streaks. They keep taking it away and bringing it right back, but we'll see how this next run goes for her,
Yeah, that's a smart way to handle it, to really be disciplined, to take your time to find the right plays. I haven't dug into it honestly, so hearing some of the strategy and behind the time frame and like I said, really staying disciplined is smart. And obviously it shows. You've hit 2 of these things at you're looking at a $10,000 prize for each one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's profitable. Like, Underdog, these books will, it might be 10 seconds they change it or bump as they call it. Their fixed market of over under is a -116. And obviously you want to get that price of -116. So if you do the fixed market -116 all the way through, you should have a $10 to 10,000 payout. But what's not EV is where people will, I tell people that's what I did, and they say it bumped, and they took it anyway. Well, now they just left money on the table. So they took it as a bump, 5 minutes later, and now instead of 10K payout, they got 8,900, which is money. It's great. It's fantastic. Make money off these sports books that are multi-billion-dollar companies. But, we're all average Joes here, and we're just trying to, we're trying to feed our families here, and we want the most out of it, and we want the best price. That's EV, your expected value. You wanted that to get the best value here. So, so that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. Nick's talked about it before in many of his, previous speeches about staying profitable. And it's that if you really want to do this, you have to dig in and be willing to put the time in to be a professional, right?
Yeah.
If you're not gonna really take it seriously and dig in and spend the time, then you're not treating it as a full-time job. You're not going to have full-time job results.
Yeah,
it's obvious. It's obviously that when you decided to do this, you dove in quite a bit. You did a lot of research. You thought about it. Your financial background helped you make decisions that were plus EV. And so you bringing that into our community again to project that sense of what is doable, and how to go about that, to provide guidance, to provide valued picks, things like that. People can come in and learn from you like you learned from Alex, right? This is what I'm on today. Then they can ask you why. They can figure out what, pick your brain about how did you come about that? That sort of engagement and that thing you were into in Gamble to Freedom. I think, like you said, the outreach that we're going to have in this Discord, the community that we're going to build is going to be that much larger, that much more tight knit, have much more value when it comes to, besides just EV and top down approach, the modeling and the bottom up approach, and the originators that we're bringing in that have, so much game data that create their own originated models to get ahead of the market is a whole different way to approach profit for bettors. And so, that's what we look to provide is a one-stop shop and really a level up to someone who's been doing this top-down strategy for so long. So to have you come on board and bring your piece to that pie, man, so we can make this thing as valuable as possible is absolutely huge. That's
awesome. That's great to hear. That's all I've been wanting for. You guys seem to have it all together here, and it's. I'm really, really excited because if we can just, essentially just bridge the gap, switch the script of these guys that are really good at marketing, and they get all the casual bettors. But if we can get the casual bettors, to sharp betting strategies, that they would never find without like insider knowledge, like that's where the education. I mean, I'm only 1 year into it, so I'm also learning something new every day. Nick, we've talked about it before, but Nick helped me a ton early on in my own arbitrage and betting career. And so I know you guys are legit, and this is going to be really exciting. I just want to really, really help. I mean, I sympathize with a lot of people because I've been in the same shoes as a lot of the people, as most average Joes here. So if we just control and we shift the narrative of how these sports books are, manipulating young bettors and people new to the market, it's just really sad. And, I just want to take as much money as possible from them.
Yeah. Education's a large piece of what we're going to bring to the community.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of insight of what else you're going to do inside the community, live streams, articles, whatever else you have in mind to engage with our subscribers.
Yeah, early on, I just want to continue, probably the long term would be one-on-one coaching to maybe even build like a all-in-one sports betting course, basically trying to do the best possible way to market and try and get, do a lot of live streaming, like just also educate new and existing bettors. And, I really like making ebooks and books, but I also want to go past that, like kind of bridging the gap of using this as a parallel between, change people's mind of this is more investing and, moving from financial literacy to sports betting, kind of merge the two. And so, yeah, what I want to bring is a lot of live streaming, a lot of education, a lot of one-on-one conversations and phone conversations. And,
I love it, Dan. Yeah, I love the direction. I love the enthusiasm and the value of what you're bringing, man. I think it's going to be huge for everyone involved. We love to help you, reach your goals and set some of those educational pieces up for you and for everyone else to share. We share your compassion with sharing with the community and bringing people up to speed on what's possible in sports betting the proper way, right? Discipline, strategy, all those things that got us where we are today. To wrap it up, Dan, give us one piece of advice, man. If you're talking to someone who's coming in as a casual bettor and you're trying to get them to consistent, what is that one piece of advice you would give them?
I guess early on, I mean, because from my own experience working with a lot of people in my own Discord, I'd probably, whether you start out as a casual bettor or you just you make a lot of mistakes EV betting, I think Salt talked about it. I'll expand on it, but I would probably say just track your units, because if you want to take this as a full-time job or even part-time job, like if you're not taking, we all have maybe our own budget, you got to manage your budget, manage what you're doing, know what you're betting on, how much money you're making from that, how much money you're losing from that. So if you take that approach of learning as you're growing your bankroll and see where you're messing up and, change it,
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dan. I couldn't agree more. Like you mentioned, Salt also kind of covered the same thing, but you guys, if I had to give one piece of advice, that's probably top 3 as well. I think tracking is super important, especially for the new person just jumping in. But yeah, man, I think this is a great conversation. I think you're going to bring so much to our community. I think you're going to help us out so much. Hopefully we can help, you out a ton as well and growing your platform and achieving any type of goals that you have. And I think ultimately, the team that we're putting together is going to be a very big, net positive in the gambling community space. And, all these things that we're talking about, I think, again, education and networking is kind of key for what I think we're bringing to the table, much more than the
Yeah.
plays and stuff that
Yeah.
we're going to send out, or some of the tools that we'll have in there. But education number one and networking number two, right? Just to, hey, maybe some people don't have access to a ton of P2s, right? And right, I don't want to get sued, so I'm not going to say a ton of crazy shit on this podcast right now, right? But let's just say some people don't have access to a ton of P2s, right? I've talked to many people. I've had a lot of people reach out to me saying, hey, I don't use X, Y, and Z account. Maybe, maybe you can, right? Just a little thing like that. Or, we have some of these guys that are originators and stuff like that. And truthfully, maybe they have no clue how to even do top-down EV betting or arbitrage or know about some of the underdog streaks that you might, Dan, right? So it's like, just kind of cross, networking and teaching each other and stuff. I have really big expectations that everybody involved is going to learn a lot and grow a lot from this.
Yeah, a true one-stop shop is kind of the label we want to put on it.
All in one shop.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us, Dan. We look forward to, having you share a lot of your knowledge and continue to grow yourself within the community. That's our main goal for everyone on board. So for Nick and myself, man, we appreciate you having on, and we'll see you in the Edge Zone, buddy.
I bet. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. See ya.
Yep.
Big thanks to Dan for joining us on the show today. Bringing his G2F family over to the Edge Zone is a huge value win for everybody. We're just getting started. The Edge Zone Discord is about to launch, and we're bringing together some of the sharpest minds in betting, exclusive contributors, and tools that will completely change the way you attack the market. If you want in on that edge, stay tuned because release is right around the corner. So until next time, keep building your edge, keep betting smart, and we'll see you in the Edge Zone.